Drift carefully. Wow, even just saying that title, it feels heavy, doesn't it?
It really does. And
Yeah.
then you get that subtitle.
Oh, yeah. If you hear this transmission, it is already too late. Drift carefully. There is no ground beneath you. I mean, talking about a hook, it just grabs you.
Immediately sets up this world where communication itself feels dangerous. Like just listening is risky.
Exactly. So today we're diving deep into this really unique, pretty unsettling book, Drift Carefully, by Wayne Skye Anderson. We've got these key excerpts looking at things called application, hearing, reach, disruption, and then this one section called the devouring.
And there's also the preface, afterward, acknowledgments, author bio. It's quite a collection of fragments.
Yeah, it feels less like a story and more like digging through, I don't know, the ruins of some collapsed communication system.
And for you, our listener, the learner, our mission today is to sort of navigate this wreckage. We want to pull out insights about, communication breakdown, isolation when systems fail, and that humans search for meaning when connections just fall apart.
It's fiction, obviously. But Anderson's world feels disturbingly relevant, reflecting our own reliance on understanding each other.
Definitely. It taps into something fundamental about how we connect, or fail to.
And helping us unpack all these layers today is our expert. Now, I have to say, when I first saw this material, my immediate reaction was just how weird it felt. The section titles are so clinical, almost detached.
Right, but then the narratives inside are so fragmented and personal.
Exactly. It's such a contrast. And it made me wonder straight away, who is this actually for? Who's the reader that connects with this kind of transmission?
That's a really interesting starting point. Given the fragmented style, the sense of a world just completely adrift, it seems like it might resonate strongly with people who've experienced major disruptions themselves.
Like in relationships or work?
Or even just their basic understanding of how the world works. People who feel like the ground shifted beneath them somehow.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting with the preface. Right off the bat, Anderson flips things. He says the collapse didn't come from outside, but within the signal itself.
Which is such a striking idea, isn't it? That the very tools we use to connect language, communication systems might be inherently flawed or corrupted somehow.
That makes you question the foundations of everything we build together, understanding-wise.
It really does.
And then he maps out this decay. Connection becomes memory, memory becomes burden, then drift, contagion, structure, hunger, and finally, law. It's like watching something vital just rot from the inside.
Each step is a deeper level of disconnection. And that shift from connection to burden is particularly sharp.
How so?
Well, it suggests that even our shared past, our memories, can become painful and isolating if we can't communicate about them properly anymore. Anyone carrying the weight of unresolved history, in a family or community, might feel that.
That makes sense. Then he talks about reaching out, not really expecting an answer, but just to remember the shape of reaching. Like it's muscle memory.
There's such loss in that phrase, but also this persistent, almost biological need to connect, isn't there? It speaks to that impulse we all have, even when we think it's futile.
Yeah, even when you expect static, you still reach.
It's like reaffirming your own existence, your social nature, a testament to that need for contact, whatever the outcome.
And the preface ends with this really stark warning. This is not a guide. This is not a map. This is the wreckage of our final transmissions, waiting for no one.
Yeah, talk about managing expectations. It basically says, we're going into a broken world, don't expect easy answers.
It prepares you for something fragmented, disorienting.
Which, again, might appeal to readers who are okay with ambiguity, who want that visceral exploration of disconnection rather than a neat story.
Okay, so then we hit the application initiation. We meet this character who for years, resisted applying to this thing called the Bureau. He just lets these notices pile up, signed, systemically yours.
Right. These unopened notices become this tower, a symbol of all the connections he's ignored.
His initial resistance is interesting. Maybe he's skeptical of, organized connection.
Or maybe he felt his own relationships were enough. But the notices are framed as invitations at first, implying choice, which seems to fade later. This could resonate with anyone wary of systems kind of encroaching on personal life.
But then things start to go wrong for him. His access glitches. The world recedes with this cold, indifferent shrug. That apathy feels so brutal.
It really does. It's not rejection. It's just being overlooked by the system. That feeling of being invisible in a crowd.
Yeah, even though we're supposedly more connected than ever.
Exactly. It's that modern paradox. Tons of superficial connectivity, but maybe less real human recognition. A lot of people probably feel that navigating online versus offline life.
So he gets this final message. Complete your application for connection to restore communicative function.
It sounds so technical. That clinical language communicative function really underscores the dehumanizing aspect, doesn't it? Boiling down connection to just data. Anyone who feels technology doesn't quite meet real emotional needs might find that part particularly sharp.
The application itself is creepy from the start. The system knows his name already.
Instant privacy violation.
Then his profile pops up, blurry photo, blinking, relational score. Like a credit score for your human connections.
That relational score, it reflects that trend of quantifying social capital, right? People argue it's efficient for networking, but it feels wrong, reducing relationships to a number. Anyone worried about data privacy or, the gamification of life will find that disturbing.
Then the first question, who are you trying to reach? He tries anyone, nope, too vague.
Right.
Then someone who will understand, also rejected, incompatible with current parameters.
Wow. The system just cannot compute that basic human desire for empathy.
It shows the limits of algorithms, right? They want data points, not nuance. Anyone who's ever felt totally misunderstood by an automated system will get this.
Definitely.
So he eventually picks self, and the system just silently approves. It's so lonely.
Choosing self in a system designed for interpersonal connection. Yeah, that really shows how isolated he feels. It's like saying outreach to others is just impossible. That might hit home for people grappling with really deep loneliness or alienation.
Then the essay prompt. Describe a moment you felt heard. And he can't think of one.
Oof, that emptiness is just devastating.
Instead, he writes about this woman, how she listened, the silence between them feeling full, a shared moment. It's deeply human, totally outside any system.
And that highlights what real listening is, right? Presence, empathy, connecting beyond just words. The fact he can't recall being heard within a system says a lot about how superficial mediated communication can feel. Those who value that deep, authentic connection will get that.
He submits it, gets back. Your application is under review. Estimated wait, undetermined.
Undetermined.
Then a counter starts. It never changes. Just stuck in limbo, waiting for connection, met with total silence.
That frozen counter is such a potent symbol of, bureaucratic indifference. Being trapped in a system with no feedback. The undetermined wait just ramps up the anxiety, his powerlessness. Anyone who's dealt with frustrating, unresponsive systems knows that feeling.
He hears this faint hum, a cruel imitation of connection. And there's a comment thread, mostly blank, but a few just say, same.
But are they real? Or just system echoes? That ambiguity mirrors the uncertainty of online interactions, doesn't it? Are you really connecting or just seeing reflections of your own isolation? It's unsettling if you rely on online platforms a lot.
He memorizes the interface, the stuck progress bar, and keeps thinking, if someone is waiting too, maybe they saw my name, maybe they remember me, just this tiny flicker of hope.
Even totally isolated, that need for recognition, for remembrance, it hangs on. It speaks to those core social needs we have. That yearning, against all odds, might resonate with anyone feeling marginalized or forgotten.
He watches from his window, wondering if others feel that same loneliness, his belief fading. It's a heartbreaking picture of isolation within connection.
Yeah, surrounded by potential connections, but feeling utterly alone. That's modern alienation right there. It hits home for people lonely despite living in cities or having tons of online friends.
And the final thought. The application might be fake, but he keeps waiting because it's the only thing left that makes sense in a world that forgot how to hear. Bleak.
But powerful. That active waiting, even for nothing, becomes a way to create order, find meaning in the chaos. It might resonate with people who cling to routines or beliefs when faced with loss or uncertainty.
So for you, the learner, this whole section shows how easily real connection gets lost or twisted in systems. It makes you think, who in your life might feel that fading connection, maybe silently? It feels like a really important read for anyone involved in designing or even just using systems meant to connect people.
Absolutely. It pushes us to ask if these systems truly serve human needs or just make the isolation worse.
Okay, let's shift to the hearing you interrogation. He ends up somewhere unknown, driven by anxiety, gets this anonymous card. You are requested to participate in the hearing. And there's a symbol. A cracked mirror.
Ooh, a cracked mirror. Straight away, that suggests confronting something broken, maybe within himself, or his perception of reality. And the vagueness, no time, no clear location at first, creates that sense of powerlessness, being subject to some unknown force. This might draw in people interested in self-reflection or dealing with their past.
And he just knows where to go. unsettling. The building is sterile, timeless, blank walls like erased memories.
Yeah.
And there's a form already filed with his signature.
Yeah, the pre-filed form reinforces that feeling of a predetermined path, loss of agency, like the system already knows or dictates the narrative. The sterile place feels like a liminal space cut off from normal life, a chilling thought if you feel like you're just being processed by impersonal systems.
The waiting room is just thick with dread. Isolated people, time slows down. Then the summons isn't a voice, it's a pressure behind his eyes, a thought that isn't his.
That's intense. Bypassing normal communication, going straight for the internal state. It blurs the line between your own thoughts and outside influence, a really relevant theme today with all the information hitting us. People thinking about consciousness and influence might find this part fascinating.
He goes down this silent corridor into a stark white room. Just 3 chairs in a triangle, no judge, no jury, just quiet and a dark screen.
The minimal setup confirms it's not a normal trial. It feels more like an internal reckoning, a psychological deep dive. The dark screen feels like a place for projection, for confronting inner stuff.
Then the voice comes. Not mechanical, but cold, genderless, weirdly familiar. First question. Please state the offense.
And he's confused.
Right, until the voice clarifies. The one you witnessed, the one you carry within you. Boom, immediately shifts from outside blame to internal burdens.
That internal resonance of the voice suggests it's tapping into the subconscious, bypassing defenses. Focusing on an offense carried within really highlights the psychological weight of things we haven't dealt with. This could resonate with anyone aware they're carrying past trauma or guilt.
He feels he has to be truthful. Admit someone he trusted, let him down. The voice asks, abandoned, harmed. He hesitates, says it was more about being left to hold the pieces that shattered.
That hesitation shows how complex emotional wounds are, hard to pin down. And holding the pieces that speaks volumes about the lasting impact of betrayal, the burden of sorting out the emotional mess, a feeling many people who've gone through breakups probably know.
And he walked away, asked the voice.
Mm.
Then, would you like to name him? But he can't. The name is gone, a phantom on his tongue.
Wow.
He says, I don't know his name anymore, and it feels true.
That inability to name him, maybe it's a deep subconscious thing, severing the connection to protect himself. Our minds do sometimes edit or erase things as a way to cope. Anyone who's been through major loss or trauma might recognize that mechanism.
The voice just accepts it. That's acceptable. Proceed. Then this weightless yet heavy silence that opens old doors inside. And the next question hits harder. And your part in this.
Ah, the turn.
His first reaction. Denial. I did nothing.
The crucial shift, moving beyond just being the victim, forcing him to look at his own actions or lack thereof.
The voice pushes. Nothing at all. He justifies. I stayed silent. That's not a crime. Then, you blamed him. He admits it. Was it justified? He thought so at first.
That defensiveness is so human, isn't it? When confronted with our own part in things, it shows how hard it is to take responsibility, especially when we feel wronged ourselves.
But the killer follow-up. Do you still? He looks at that cracked mirror, but sees the indistinct figure of blame, not himself, and whispers, I don't know.
That's the moment. The mirror reflecting his blame shows how distorted his view was. His uncertainty is the first step towards self-awareness, maybe letting go of that burden. Anyone who's wrestled with resentment or trying to forgive will likely feel that moment.
The voice then calmly summarizes. His inaction, his blaming outwards, the buried shared responsibility, the real source of the betrayal festering inside. It's not an accusation, just neutral description.
Chillingly neutral.
Then this line, we all blame someone. We all think it will free us from the weight. It does not. It merely shifts the burden.
That feels like the core insight of the hearing, doesn't it? Blaming others might feel good for a second, but it stops us from dealing with our own part and actually healing. A key lesson for anyone trying to move past conflict and find some peace.
No sentence, no forgiveness. This is not punishment inflicted from without. The answer comes from inside him. Recognition. The room dims. The judgment was internal all along.
Yeah, the lack of external judgment really drives home how personal this is. The dimming room is like dawning self-awareness. The real outcome is that internal shift. True accountability comes from within.
He goes back to the waiting room. It feels different, subtly changed. He wants to warn the others about this quiet reckoning, how there's no external closure, how blame comes back inward. But he stays silent. He understands how silence starts.
His inability to explain it highlights how isolating profound self-discovery can be. And realizing silence is both symptom and cause of disconnection.
That's powerful.
He goes home carrying this weight of truth he hasn't fully processed and finds more of those anonymous cards, invitations to similar reckonings.
The recurring invitations suggest this is an ongoing process, maybe even a systemic need for people to confront these inner burdens. This whole section seems especially valuable for anyone interested in psychology, conflict resolution, understanding responsibility.
So for you, the learner, this hearing is a really powerful way to think about self-perception, blame, all that complexity. I mean, who hasn't carried some unrecognized offense or struggled with responsibility? It really pushes you to look inward. Definitely. It makes you examine your own stories about conflict, how you assign blame, and consider your own role in those narratives you tell yourself.
Okay, then we enter the reach extension lay. This feels like a complete break from reality. Elevator doors open onto a floor that shouldn't exist, just a bench, weird light, the sound of paper breathing. He feels pulled in.
It's a dive into the surreal, isn't it? That elevator breaking the rules signifies stepping into some kind of liminal space where physical and maybe psychological boundaries blur. Breathing paper hints at something organic, maybe unseen, happening to reality itself. This part might really grab people into speculative fiction or altered states.
The doors close, trap him. The elevator moves on its own, showing glimpses of other floors with hints of recent activity. He feels compelled to document this unraveling reality on scraps of paper, napkins.
Like trying to anchor himself.
Yeah, naming the fragments as reality dissolves around him, a desperate attempt to make sense of it.
It's such a human response to chaos, isn't it? Trying to document the inexplicable, impose some kind of order. It taps into that drive we have to understand and control our environment, even when it's totally absurd.
Then this cup appears with a note. Do you remember when this made sense? His memory of a coherent world is fading, but he longs for it. He sticks the note on a wall where paint is peeling in the shape of a question mark.
Wow, that note just perfectly captures the theme. A world losing its logic. And the peeling paint question mark? Such a visual symbol of his own confusion and the uncertainty everywhere. That imagery probably resonates with anyone who's felt disoriented or questioned their own perception.
The building itself starts to unlearn itself. Physics goes weird, architecture shifts, impossible weather indoors, birds flying backwards.
And crucially, no one else seems to mention it.
Right. Are they in denial? Or just as lost? He starts drawing chalk arrows, not really to guide, but just to resist the disorientation.
That collective silence is fascinating. Maybe deep denial, maybe learned helplessness. His chalk arrows are this small personal defiance against the chaos, trying to hold on to direction when the world's lost its way. A struggle against entropy we all kind of face.
He has this fleeting connection, someone humming a half-familiar tune in a stairwell. Finds a room with no doors, a filing cabinet labeled "Attempts Empty." He leaves a paperclip inside.
That shared melody is a tiny spark of humanity in the isolation. The empty attempts drawer suggests maybe past efforts to fix things were futile.
Leaving the paperclip is this small, poignant gesture, like, I was here in the emptiness.
There are no instructions, no guide, just his fragile system of scraps and symbols. But then even that unravels. The filing cabinet reappears, but the notes are changed. His system is twisted. Time starts looping.
Even his own attempts at order become unstable. It shows how deep the breakdown goes. The time loops add another layer of disorientation.
But he keeps reaching, marking the edges. Not hope, exactly, but something persistent drives him. That persistence, even when logic fails, speaks to that enduring human need to engage, to try and understand, even when things seem impossible. It resonates with anyone who's faced huge challenges and just kept going. This section feels relevant for people working with complex systems, thinking about how to maintain order when things disrupt.
So for you, the learner, maybe these markers are like the small anchors we all use when facing uncertainty and the silence of others.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how we adapt or fail to adapt to the absurd. Who hasn't felt the world subtly unlearning itself sometimes?
It really invites you to think about shared reality versus individual perception. How do we keep our bearings when the world feels like it's fundamentally changing? And it shows the different ways people cope when order breaks down.
Which leads us right into the disruption EFFR at C plus URA8. Start small, subtle cracks. Memos you can't read, elevators going to identical floors, meetings with no time or place, a colleague who's erased from the directory but still there.
Undermining the very basics of the workplace, communication, navigation, memory.
And everyone is silent about it.
That silence suggests this deep fear of acknowledging the breakdown, maybe, or just learned helplessness. It might ring true for people who've seen subtle but persistent dysfunction in organizations they've been part of.
Then it escalates. Hallways stretch impossibly. Elevators vanish, replaced by ladders to nowhere. Stairs start strangely with weird symbols. The vending machine only gives empty wrappers, but people still queue up.
Total erosion of logic. And the unquestioning obedience of the others. It highlights that power of social conformity, how people adapt to even the most bizarre things. A commentary on organizational culture, maybe? How dysfunction gets normalized.
The office director becomes gibberish. His supervisor says unsettling things like they're in the translation phase, normalizing the chaos. He just retreats, observes passively.
Departments get relocated to closets, stairwells, the restroom. Instructions become riddles. Measure the weight of delay. Nonsensical reports get accepted.
He's given a folder. Everything that was never said. Told to cross-reference it with known lies. He just burns it. Dreams of a massive filing cabinet of forgotten things reaching the sky.
It's the complete breakdown of structure, of meaning. That folder of unspoken words hints at all the unacknowledged truth, the denial, and a failing system. The dream cabinet is like this huge symbol of everything suppressed.
His apartment starts mirroring the office weirdness. Finds a Post-it. The only thing left is to document the breakdown. So he starts writing notes, observations, warnings no one will read, leaving them everywhere.
With silent truths.
Yeah. The structure is collapsing beautifully. We are being rewritten. Nothing is failing. This is the function. The center did not hold. We are not meant to return.
His documentation becomes this solitary resistance against meaninglessness. Those messages suggest the disruption isn't an accident, it's a transformation. Bearing witness like that might resonate with people who feel they're living through huge societal shifts right now.
His own identity dissolves. His office disappears into mirrors or fog. But in the middle of this ruin, something else opens up. A violinist playing in the server room, a painter using melted plastic, people releasing paper cranes.
Acts of creativity erupting in the chaos.
Not resistance exactly, but survival through creation.
It's just that resilience, doesn't it? The need for self-expression even when everything's falling apart. Finding meaning even without conventional structures. The power of art to cope, find beauty anywhere. This part might really speak to artists or anyone who finds comfort and creativity during tough times.
He stops clocking in. Time is measured by decay now. He wanders, speaks gibberish, finds others doing the same. They share this silent understanding. The building literally cracks open, reveals other realities. No one leaves. Their minds just bend.
Minds bending to the change.
He finds his old witness badge, scratches it out, writes remnant. The system's gone, but there's this chaotic beauty left. Something feral, alive, free.
Wow. The final disruption leads to total breakdown, but also this strange kind of liberation. People adapt in wild ways, find a new, chaotic way to exist. Remnant, a transformed identity for a new reality. It makes you think about freedom, adaptation, even in extreme situations.
So for you, the learner, this section really shows how people and systems react when everything just breaks down fundamentally. What different kinds of survival do we see? And who hasn't felt the world tilting into the nonsensical at some point?
It really makes you think about how fragile our constructed realities are and the huge range of ways people cope with profound, inexplicable change. From passive acceptance to creativity, chaos, adaptation. It's all in there.
Which brings us finally to The Devouring Edo, No Center, No Return, No Reply. That title.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It starts with the hum. It's pervasive now, grown from a whisper to filling everything, a physical presence. Demands attention, but it's also easy to ignore. Sometimes it falters, like it's listening back.
The hum becomes the entire reality, drowning everything else out. Those falters suggest it's dynamic, maybe even predatory. Kind of evokes that feeling of being overwhelmed by constant digital noise today, maybe.
He wakes up, notices his hair thinning, realizes he can't remember silence anymore, stares at the cracked ceiling, his fading palm lines. Everything's decaying, unchanging. The cupboard's always empty. No one cares about food or anything. Collective apathy.
The imagery is so visceral, complete depletion, physical and emotional, that pervasive decay, the lack of concern for basic survival. It speaks to this profound disconnection from life itself, a metaphor for societal decay, maybe, or losing fundamental values.
The doorbell rings.
Yep.
9:17 a.m. exactly. A flicker of old routine, but he just ignores it, like the pile of packages already there, remnants of lost purpose. Doors appear illogically in the pulsing hallway, open, dark, inviting, but ignored.
That fixed-time doorbell shows the ghost of old order in a world that's moved on. The ignored packages, abandoned connections, the illogical doors suggest reality itself is breaking down. Possibilities are meaningless now because of the apathy.
There's a sickly yellow light at the end of the hall, an illusion. It leads to an empty room, walls shapeless. He feels a presence. Air pressure changes. The hum gets louder. A phantom pull. The air is thick, wet, smells of rot.
Oh, the atmosphere there. Pure dread. The empty room, the growing presence. It feels like something awful is coming. The intensified hum, the oppressive environment, it's like being consumed already.
The shadow forms in the corner. A wet, dripping sound. A tall figure, featureless, shimmering, static. Just there, waiting.
Chilling.
He realizes nothing feels real anymore. Perception, reality, all blurred, just part of the hum and the rot. His feet start moving towards the end of the room. Surrender.
That featureless figure feels like confronting the ultimate unknown. A manifestation of the decay, the loss of self. Blurring reality signifies complete surrender to whatever is happening.
And there it is. The machine.
Yeah.
Silent, inevitable. A massive, twisted mechanical maw, teeth grinding, sounded like bone and flesh. It's alive. Hungry.
Not just a machine, but organic, predatory. The final symbol of that devouring force, merging the artificial and natural in this horrific end.
His gaze is fixed beyond it. He accepts it, no choice left. The light flickers, the buzzing roars. He stands before it, trembling. Will, gone.
Total surrender.
Click, grind. First crunch, his leg. Second crunch, his arm snaps. Relentless tearing, grinding, but no pain. Just numbness, final pressure. Machine closes. The last sound, that unwavering hum.
Wow, and described with such detachment, inevitability, complete loss of agency, sensation, and the hum just continues, suggesting this isn't really an end, just the force carrying on.
So for you, the learner, this ending raises huge questions, right? What are the ultimate consequences of this level of disconnection? What is the devouring? What could it mean metaphorically for our world? Who should really pay attention to this chilling end? Maybe anyone living in a society that feels increasingly run by unseen forces.
It's a profound section, makes you think about unchecked systemic failure, the forces inside and outside us that might consume us, a really stark warning about how fragile connection is and how systems can turn on us.
Just briefly, the afterword. Anderson talks about these pieces being transmissions in the hum, but the lifelong schism of connection, how the work's incomplete. But there's a tiny glimmer. Even broken signals can be received. Even silence can be answered.
That authorial reflection is helpful. It frames the themes that struggle with connection, but also the possibility of resonance even in broken communication. That little hint of hope is crucial against the overall darkness.
He acknowledges people who gave him meaningful connection. His bio talks about being born with a silent scream, language failing, writing is a bleed, a confession for the almost heard, the people on the edges with too much to say and no map, living where meaning slips. So maybe the book is especially for them.
It seems that way. His own experiences clearly shaped the book. There's this deep empathy for people who feel marginalized, unheard. Drift carefully feels like a signal sent out specifically for those who feel adrift.
So, key takeaways for you, the learner, from Drift Carefully. Communication is precarious. Systemic breakdown is isolating. Inner reckoning is necessary. We search desperately for meaning in chaos. And connection might still be possible even in fragments. A really vital exploration for anyone navigating modern connection and disconnection.
It's a unique, unsettling look at our reliance on systems, on communication. It pushes you to really examine your own experiences with connection, isolation, meaning, especially in our complex world. A vital read, I think, for anyone feeling uneasy about where our mediated lives are headed.
And maybe a final thought for you to take away. In this world, so full of systems and signals, what subtle hums might we be tuning out? What are the real implications of our connections and our disconnections? Who are you really reaching? And who maybe is trying to reach you through all the noise? Perhaps Drift Carefully isn't just for the lost. Maybe it's a transmission for all of us now.
That's a powerful and timely question to sit with.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights on this intense material.
My pleasure. It's a lot to think about.
And to you, the learner, keep exploring, keep diving deep.